Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. This is Taisha, and I'm back with another great video. And I am here with Nadia Ruffin, known as the UrbanFarmSista. She is my fellow Cincinnati girl. As you see, I have on my Black-owned Cincinnati shirt because this is just, oh my gosh, it's such an honor to be here with her. I have been a longtime subscriber to her channel. And shout out to Brother Chandler who connected us and got us collaborating and getting great information out there to our people. So
Yes.
just to sing the praises of my new sister. And when I call her my sister, she looks just like my big sister Shauna. So Shauna, I hope you're watching. If y'all know Shauna, y'all saw her in my videos before, let me know. But this is like deja vu. Oh my gosh, it's just it's crazy. But Sister Nadia, she is a entomologist. She is an urban farmer. She has a local farm in Cincinnati, Ohio, but it's in Cincinnati, but the suburb is called Reading, Ohio. And she is, oh my gosh, she is a mastermind when it comes to traditional farming methods, hydroponics, aquaponics. She is the founder of Agricademy and Agricademy Labs out of Ohio. She's also owner of Blossom's Weddings and also We Grow Farms. She's affiliated with just everything, and she has just great content here on YouTube. So make sure that you like, subscribe, share, and also connect with her on all of her platforms. Everything is Urban Farm Sister, okay? And one of the last videos I watched of hers in my playlist was one on survival. She collaborated with another brother out of Dayton, Ohio, on survival methods and ways to survive pandemics and things like that. Everything from tornadoes to water main break. Then she also has a homeschool, like how to turn your home into homeschooling, and she also has courses as well. So yes. I just gave you this brief introduction. Now I'm going to allow her to speak and just let everyone know about you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for letting me be on your channel today. Yes, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I am an entomologist. I actually went to school. I went to Ohio State. I graduated with a bachelor's from Ohio State in agriculture. My focus was animal sciences, pre-veterinary medicine, and I also minored in entomology. So people that don't know what entomology is, it's a person that studies insects. I've always been interested in nature and animals, but insects have always just had a place in my heart. When I went and got my bachelor's degree from Ohio State, I wanted to go to veterinary school and I wanted to be a veterinarian. But things didn't work out. I got sick in undergrad. My grades tanked really bad. And so, I actually worked in veterinary medicine. I worked in research. I worked in a lot of different labs. I was working at Ohio State. I worked at University of Georgia. Also worked at the Ohio Department of Agriculture and the University of Cincinnati. So in all those places, I was doing different research projects, whether it was testing, different types of medications. It was all veterinary based, but it was testing like medications for different, diseases and ailments and things that affect animals that also affect people. Then I got a job at the health department here as a disease investigator. There I was actually I actually help people here in Hamilton County, track diseases. So what happens is when somebody would get sick, I would have to contact them and I have to figure out where they were exposed and things like that. So this COVID-19 would have been something that I would have to deal with. I was there when we had the, in 2017, when we had the really bad flu where like 85,000 people died throughout the United States. Also, I was there when we had the Ebola, the Zika virus, and all those things. So, I was, used to tracking diseases and, I always had that entomology interest because I was always interested in diseases that are vectored by insects, things like mosquitoes and things that are not insects like ticks and things. And so I got a master's in entomology. So I have a master's in entomology and my focus was medical entomology, which are those insects and arthropods that cause disease. And from there that, I was doing that, especially when the Zika virus was around. It was right when I was getting my master's degree. So that was like my main focus. Like, ooh, this is interesting. I get to actually use my degree to, track this and, educate people about mosquitoes and educate about the disease and things like that. So that's always been my interest. And then after I left the health department, I ventured out on my own. And that's when I started my urban farm. I bought an empty lot in Kennedy Heights and I turned it into a farm. And from there, I actually teach people how to grow their own food and soil, as well as hydroponics and aquaponics. Um, Also, I have bees, I have chickens. So I teach beekeeping. I teach how to, raise chickens and things like that. So I'm just a nerd and I love science and stuff. I'm a scientist. So, you know, this is just what I do. And so when this COVID-19 came along, it really piqued my interest because it was a zoonotic disease, which is a disease that's usually transmitted by animals to people. Um, but as I start looking through it, I'm like, I don't know if this is naturally occurring, but it does have an animal origin to it. But there's a lot of misinformation being put out by the media, by social media, especially all these memes and stuff. So I just came on there and I started educating people about, the immune system. People don't understand how their body works. And so I start talking about that, talking about immunity, how to build it, what immunity really is, because people are under this impression that I just eat something and I'm going to be invincible. And no, it's a whole system that your body has to go through before you actually build immunity. And to build immunity, you have to be exposed to a pathogen. So to build immunity against COVID-19, which is the actual virus is called SARS-2-CoV, you have to be exposed to it. So whether you develop symptoms, or if you're not going to develop symptoms, but are a carrier, your body has to be introduced to that actual virus before it can you can build immunity against it. Um, so then, I was tracking the disease, from Wuhan. And I'm like, wait a minute, this had to be in the United States a lot longer than what they're claiming. Because there was people that were sick like last year with strange pneumonias and all this other stuff. And, you had even that, what do you call it? The vaping. That might even had some correlation as well, because that was kind of strange out of nowhere. All these people just started developing these things, and so I just been tracking this whole thing and just educating about coronavirus, influenza, because we're still in flu season. Nobody talks about the flu, and the flu kills a lot of people every year. And so that's just what I do. I just love science. I love teaching people about science. I love teaching definitely about insects. So you know come this weekend, I'm going to start talking again about gardening and things on my channel, as well as insects. And I got some stuff going on for children as well, teaching them about chickens and eggs and all that. So I just love doing all this. This is just so much fun.
That is amazing because with your channel, watching different videos, like your topics are so on point and you have such a rational, a logical explanation back, by years of research and just a common sense approach. It's not based on fear, because I will admit I kind of had like a ignorance to the
Mhm.
coronavirus, because as you said, a lot of people were getting sick last year.
Yes.
And I was one of those, and I actually lived up in Washington State, where a lot of the cases of corona is being reported and things like that. So I was like,
Right.
I'm happy to get up out of there.
Right.
But after that, I'm like, I'm kind of invincible. I'm good. I kind
Yeah.
of thought like, okay, I'm good to the next flu season. I already had the flu. I lived. So I was
Yes.
really ignorant when it came to that. But one thing that you really brought to light, and I believe it's like 3 videos ago of yours,
Mhm.
and it's soon as this pandemic like went mainstream media, it went crazy.
Yeah.
People ran to the store, bought a bottle of toilet paper,
Yes.
hand sanitizer.
Yes.
Once all the hand sanitizer was gone and all the hand soap was still there, I bought 4 gallons of hand soap today at Walmart.
Right.
But people started making their own hand sanitizer. So
Oh
your
yeah.
video talked about the dangers of DIY hand sanitizer. Can
Yes.
you
Yes.
explain that?
So even with the hand sanitizer that you purchase at the store, there is no scientific data that says that it's going to be effective against this COVID-19 disease. If you guys don't know, COVID-19 stands for coronavirus disease in 2019. So that's what that stands for. The actual virus that causes that, like I said, is called SARS-2-CoV. So there is no data. There's no lab that has tested Purell or any of these other hand sanitizers to say that yes, it's going to be effective. It'll kill it. Everything's under the assumption that it will work. But if you actually go back and you read through scientific articles, and I know those can be kind of intimidating to people, but there were scientists that were testing, hand sanitizer on other, types of diseases like MRSA and things like that. And what they found is that a lot of those hand sanitizers, um, they didn't work because you would have to have a certain amount of time that the product would have to be on the bacteria. I'm sorry, the virus before it would actually be effective. And usually that time was like 10 minutes to a half an hour. And when you put hand sanitizer on your hand, it evaporates very quickly and it's not getting enough exposure. So once I saw people making their own, the reason that you should not make your own is number one, for a hand sanitizer to even be effective, even with that specific contact time, it has to be between 60 to 90% alcohol. Anything above that, there's not enough water in there, and so the water is what actually helps the alcohol actually cross over that microorganisms, um, you know, uh, the membranes, and that helps it cross over. And what happens then, once the alcohol starts to cross over, then it starts to break down that membrane, and then it allows water to like just kind of rush in and causing that organism to lyse or burst. But if you don't have that water in there, so if you have 99% alcohol, you're not doing yourself any justice. You don't have hardly any water in there for these biological processes to occur. And so when I saw that, and I was like, wow, people don't even know, they don't know the science behind this. And I had to make a video and I had to find, papers that showed like, different concentrations are more effective on certain microorganisms. So COVID-19 disease is caused by a virus, but a lot of things that we're using are what you would use for a bacteria. And bacteria are actually, living, and they reproduce on surfaces outside of a body. They can reproduce on like a table or, wherever they are, they can reproduce. A virus is a non-living, it's an infectious agent. It's not even living. It has to be inside of a host, and it has to be in contact with host cells that it can actually replicate its DNA or RNA in. And so, a virus may be sitting on the surface, but it's not really living. It's not replicating. It's not feeding. It's not doing any of those things. It's just sitting there waiting to be picked up by hopefully a host that it can actually replicate itself inside of. So, you know, to use a hand sanitizer that has 99% alcohol, you're not doing yourself any justice. You're not killing anything. You're not destroying anything. You're just getting alcohol that's going to really evaporate in like 3 seconds. And then, it's just that false piece of, I guess, that false sense of security or something. People think, oh, I got 200 proof. This will kill anything, and you're not killing anything. You just drinking alcohol. You just putting alcohol on your hands and just burning where you have little cuts and stuff. But yeah, it's so it's just that type of information that people are not getting, and the media is not going to say that. And speaking of the media, back in January, the FDA had sent a letter to the makers of Purell. They're called Gojo Industries, and told them that they needed to stop making false medical claims on their products, saying that it's effective against MRSA, it's effective against VRE, which is vancomycin resistant enterococcus, which is a bacteria that's resistant to one of the last strongest antibiotics that we have, and it's resistant to it. And so they were making these claims that it was even effective against Ebola, and had never been tested against Ebola virus. And so, when they were making that claims about that, and then now the media is pushing Purell, it's like that's kind of weird because there's no data that even backs up that it's effective against this coronavirus. This is not the first coronavirus that we've had, circulating, that had this, this respiratory distress type symptom. I don't know if you guys remember MERS-CoV that hit in Iran, I think was like in 2014. And then we had SARS in China back in 2000. Oh, it might have been 2010. I can't remember the exact date. But so these are not the first coronaviruses that we've had. The thing is that they didn't do any real research testing back then. They didn't develop any type of vaccines. They didn't develop any type of medications or anything. It was just the people that got it, they succumbed to it, and the people that didn't, they survived and they just went on. It was brown people that were being affected, so they didn't care. But now that this particular coronavirus is um you know affecting Europeans, now it's an urgency to come up with a vaccine or some quick treatment, which can be kind of dangerous as well. And so, we can talk about that a little later. But yeah, that hand sanitizer, when I saw that, and then I saw the antibacterial soap, and the FDA has sent letters to the antibacterial soap people telling them to stop making claims that, it's effective against bacteria, because it's not. And then there used to be a chemical in there that actually caused cancer. It was called triclosan, and they forced them to take that out of there about 7 years ago. But in reality, antibacterial is not going to have any effect on a virus. So we're dealing with a virus, you guys, a virus, not a bacteria. So anything that says antibacterial is not going to be effective on it because it's not a bacteria. But yeah, the the hand sanitizer. And yes, you guys can go watch the video on my channel if you subscribe. It's on there because the title says that's not going to work. Hand sanitizer, antibacterial soap, and I talked about all of that. I talked about even what a bacteria and a virus is, and because the general public has no clue. We don't we don't know.
And that's one thing with like nasty habits. I noticed that like the guys I used to work with, they'll go use the bathroom, not wash their hands. They'll
Right.
walk straight out and hit the
Yep.
hand sanitizer if they did that. But then one thing I noticed too was I had a doctor's appointment and it was about my feet. And I noticed the doctor, he just walked into the room, got some hand foam, touched my feet, started typing on his computer, scratched his face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm glad I don't have athlete's foot or nothing. But
exactly.
one thing I notice is like this new norm is reshaping our habits. And
Yeah.
it's like now we're having government imposed, home training. Can you tell us about some habits that people have that are continuing to help spread coronavirus and other infectious diseases and communicable diseases?
Oh, so the hand washing thing is a big issue. People are under the assumption that you don't have to wash your hands if you use the hand sanitizer. That was never supposed to be that way. You were supposed to wash your hands first and then use the hand sanitizer secondly, even though it really doesn't do much. But you know, people have replaced that as washing their hands. If you have to think about this, if you put hand sanitizer on in your hand, say you put dirt on your hands and you put hand sanitizer on, that dirt is still there. Like it didn't get washed off. You just covered it in alcohol. So anything that it didn't kill after it, evaporated, there's still microorganisms there. It's still dirt there. But this is our way of thinking. Like we have been taught to be like this, quick, um everything's a simple solution society, and that's not how this works. um Another thing is people, when they go to the bathroom, they don't wash their hands. And they were finding that asymptomatic people, those are people that do not show symptoms of the COVID-19 disease, but they could be a carrier of the virus, that it was actually passing in feces. And so even though they were not coughing, sneezing, and all that stuff going on, they could still pass it in their feces. So if they're going to the bathroom and not washing their hands, they're spreading the virus just like a person would that was coughing or sneezing or whatever. Also, the mask, that's another, and the gloves. Wearing the gloves to the grocery store. You are not doing yourself any justice by doing that. What you're doing is the same thing you would do if you had your bare hands. You're touching on everything, but now you have gloves on, so the gloves are picking up everything. So you're touching your keys, you're touching your credit card, you're touching the money, you're touching the items that you're picking off the shelf with the gloves that are contaminated with not just COVID-19, but any other microorganism that's in there. I mean, we got to remember that although they put this disease front and center in the news, there's always been microorganisms that can wipe us out. I mean, there's the flu, there's pertussis, which causes whooping cough. That's been, numbers in that particular disease have been increasing astronomically ever since they changed the vaccine back in, I think it was the early 90s. So there's a lot of people that are getting sick from that particular disease. You have hepatitis A, you have hepatitis B, you have hep C. I mean, even though that's transmitted more through intravenous drug use, we have all these different diseases that have been out there, and we weren't concerned about them, and they can kill you. But, people, I guess they're under the assumption, like, I have these gloves on, I'm wearing this mask. I seen people wearing the mask and their nose wasn't even covered up. And when they cough, they took the mask off. Like, what are you doing? And so, you're really not, you're doing this all wrong. And then the mask, that's another issue. So the N95 mask, it means that, when it was tested, 95% of any dust or debris that was brought up against that mask, it did not penetrate through. It was able to filter out, any type of microorganisms and things like that. Masks that we make at home, they're not going to be able to filter out or, prevent that virus from coming right through the mask. The microns on those homemade masks are not small enough. The virus itself is 0.2 microns. That's very, very tiny. And so the fibers that are in the material that people are using to make masks, those little holes, that it would allow it right through there. Now, it can keep things like droplets, like, mucus droplets and saliva, if a person is coughing or sneezing and things like that. It can keep that inside the mask. But I'm telling you, like, I've seen people take the mask off and cough and sneeze. So I don't even understand why you even have it on.
One quick thing about those masks I see people wearing from the hospital. They have the sign at the hospital. Put this on if you have a cough. So it's going to protect anyone from outside. That's what it is. It's a barrier to keep stuff from you coming out, not out coming in. So when I see people wearing it, I just bust out laughing. There was a meme somebody put on Instagram stories. This lady was wearing a child's party, like cold hat across her mouth.
I've seen women cutting their bras and making, and I seen somebody was telling people to use a paper towel. And I'm like, paper towels are not meant to filter out anything. They're meant to absorb moisture. And I'm like, see, this is the problem. Like, people, and that's another problem with social media. It gave people platforms that should not have had platforms. Like, all this stuff should not be circulating. And that's the stuff that circulates and goes viral. Like, my videos don't go viral, but make a mask out of a paper towel goes viral. Like, come on now.
So and then those of us, I have a military background, so those of us who were in the gas chamber, those of us who went through things were like, this ain't gonna work, player. And then even in law enforcement, FEMA provided funds to go out and buy, hazmat suits and gas masks and stuff. When you see what a filter and stuff like that, a canister filters out. And then it also has, the eye covering, like anything that has mucus, because I've been pepper sprayed plenty of times. I've delivered pepper spray plenty of times. So when stuff like that hits you, it's going to hit everything, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, anything that, your skin. So can you tell us about some of our natural barriers to, viruses and diseases?
So you have an immune system. So there's the innate immune system, and then there's the adaptive immune system. So your innate immune system, it is your skin. This is the first line of defense that you have. It's your skin, saliva, mucus, hair. All of that prevents diseases from getting into you. So if a disease or a virus can get past that, then you have what's the second line of defense. So you have things like mucus secretions. You have if you get sick, the first thing you'll develop is a fever. We don't even allow people to have fevers anymore. We give them ibuprofen before. The fever is there for a reason. Your body was equipped with a fever. So if you have a low grade fever, if it starts getting up into the 104, maybe 103, it's pushing it a little, but if it gets to 104, 105, 106, yes, you need to get something to get it down. But if it's like 100, 101, 102, you need to allow that to happen. Because what that's doing is it's heating up the body to actually kill those microorganisms that may have invaded. But the first thing we do is we go grab the ibuprofen and we totally throw off the whole body's natural, defenses. Then there's things like we have macrophages, we have these are white blood cells and things that actually engulf and eat microorganisms in there. Now, if it gets past the second line defense, and you have what is called the adaptive immunity. This is where you have your T cells and your B cells and all that good stuff. And I have a whole video explaining all this on my YouTube. But basically, this is where your actual immunity is built. So these particular T cells and B cells, they have on them receptors that actually will detect an antigen on a particular pathogen. And then what it'll do is it'll attack that pathogen, kill it, and then it'll remember it by antibodies. So your body produces these antibodies. Once it produces those antibodies, if that same pathogen comes in or something that's very similar to it comes in, your body instantly can identify it and start attacking it before it can actually proliferate and cause infection and cause sickness. So, our bodies are designed to fight disease. We just don't allow it. But there are things that can help boost your immune system by helping it if it's actually under attack. It's not going to actually always prevent, a microorganism from invading, but there are things that like elderberries, and we'll talk about elderberries. Okay. So elderberries, I did a whole video about immunity and I talked about elderberries, but there are other things that are similar to elderberries, like blueberries and things. They contain these chemicals called anthocyanins. So anything that has that dark purple color, fruit or vegetable, they contain a lot of anthocyanins. So there's been a lot of research with anthocyanins that show that they're actually antiviral. Those actual flavonoids are antiviral, which means when they're in the body, they actually did the test in lab. They didn't do it in the body, but what they were finding that when these anthocyanins were introduced to a cell and they put a virus in there, it protected the cell so that the virus could not penetrate those cells and actually start the replication. And then they also tested some cells that were infected with viruses and they put those anthocyanins in there and they found that the anthocyanins would keep the virus from actually rupturing that cell and releasing the viruses so that they go infect other cells, and that's how you get sick. So anthocyanins are very, um, you know, they're very antiviral, and they can be found in things that we eat every day. Now I know people like elderberries, and people are always pushing that, but there's a lot of other fruits and vegetables that are also higher in anthocyanins than even the elderberries. You also have to remember with elderberries is that you have to cook them. If you do not cook them, they're toxic. They can make you sick. They can even kill you if you get too much of it. So you need to know the source of your elderberries. I know they're starting to make like cough syrups and things with elderberries in there, but then they also have other things in there. Um, so I mean, you can make your own elderberry syrups and things like that, but just know you have to cook them. You cannot just eat raw elderberries. You also, if you're growing your own elderberries, please do not eat the leaves or anything from the plant because it's toxic. So if you don't want to go the elderberry route, you can go with blueberries. You can go with red cabbage or that purple looking cabbage. You can go with blackberries, raspberries. Anything that has a purple or red color will have a lot of anthocyanins in it. Vitamin C, that's also good. It doesn't necessarily fight a infection, but vitamin C actually helps your phagocytes and things building strong phagocytes and things so they can actually go and attack these things when they first enter into the body. So vitamin C is good. If you get a lot of vitamin C, what happens is it's just excreted out in your urine. So if you get an overabundance, it's not one of those vitamins that can become toxic at high levels. It's a water soluble one. So if you just have an excess, what's going to usually do it just filters right out into your urine. Um, Also, sunlight is very important. You got to get vitamin D. Vitamin D is vital for your immune system, as well as things like even fighting depression and stuff. Um, a lot of times, Black people get sick in the wintertime because we're not exposed to a lot of sun in the winter, especially if we live in areas that, get really gray, winters. Now, if you live in the Bahamas somewhere, you're probably good. But, Ohio, I live in Ohio, and yeah, it's gray up here most of the time. Um, but sunlight is very vital. You need the sun to actually make the vitamin D. Our body has where it actually stores the precursor in our skin. And so when the sun hits your skin, it actually activates those precursors and it goes to your liver. Your liver actually synthesizes the actual vitamin D that your body can use. Um, Vitamin D is also important for bone health. Um, uh, it's also known to supposedly prevent certain cancers and things. So vitamin D is very vital. So getting sunlight is very vital. Now there are some people that can't go out in the sun for medical reasons. Maybe they're on a medication or they have certain diseases that prevent them from going out in the sun. I know lupus is one of them. But if you can go out into the sun, you do yourself so much justice with fighting diseases, fighting depression. That's why people get cabin fever in the wintertime because they're not getting that sunlight. That vitamin D is very vital to fighting that. As far as anything else in our own bodies, like I say, our bodies are they're very powerful. We don't show our bodies enough respect. We don't feel like they can even fight off things. Um, they're not showing you in the news all the people that are recovering from this COVID-19. They're only showing people that are dying. Um, but the numbers that are surviving are astronomical compared to the numbers that are dying. A lot of the people that are passing away from this are people that are immunocompromised, people that are elderly, um, and most of the time, like I said, they have some underlying condition that would, cause them to be sick. Um, and so, if they have things like asthma or if they have diabetes, heart disease, cancer, those types of things can be exasperated if they actually are infected with this virus. The virus itself may not actually kill them. It could be, those things that they already had going on that actually cause them to, pass away. But they're not, like I'm telling you, it's been hundreds of thousands of people that have recovered throughout the world from this. If they don't tell you those numbers, those numbers aren't exciting when you compare them to the people that, have died. You can't push an agenda if you're trying to push an agenda if you only having like 1% of your patients really dying and you're having like a 99% recovery for everybody else. So, you know, you have to think about that. There's some websites you can go to and you can see like the number of people per country that have recovered. Um, but just know that, our bodies are equipped to fight off infection, but there are things that you do that can, lower that. Smoking, drinking, not exercising, even age plays a part in that. Young people, they don't have strong immune systems. Older people, their immune systems start to, weaken as they get older. So you have to think about that. That's why a lot of the elderly were being affected by this a lot worse than people that, were in between the ages of like 10 and 60 because their immune systems are weakened. Um, Obesity plays a part in immunity as well. If you're not active and you're overweight, sometimes, it can cause problems with your body not being able to, you know, if you're not eating the right things and you're not getting those vitamins like vitamin D, or you're not getting from the sun, all that plays into this. So it's a lot that goes into, you know, our bodies fighting off infection, but we are equipped. Before there were doctors, before there were vaccines, we had what is called an immune system that would create those antibodies themselves. The vaccines were created, they claim, to mimic what the body would do. And it used to be that way. It used to be it would just trigger, you know, those antibodies to be produced in the body, and so it could identify the antigen, and then, your body can fight off the infection if you hadn't already been exposed to it. Now they put extra stuff in there that's not even necessary. But yeah, that's the body.
That is perfect. I just want to let everybody know who's just now joining us. I am here with Nadia Ruffin, also known as the Urban Farm Sister here on YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe to her channel. Here is her link. She has been dispelling so many myths recently on coronavirus, but she also has a channel with great information if you want to get started on starting your own Liberty Farm or hydroponics, aquaponics, homeschooling, introducing your children to farm animals and animals that we need for sustainment, such as chickens, eggs, things
Yep.
like that, and
Yeah.
vegetables. And she is one of my favorite YouTubers out of my hometown. We're fellow Cincinnati girls. I just can't stop saying that. Just a lovely soul. So everyone here is loving you. Make sure you subscribe to her on all of her platforms, which is UrbanFarmSista. If you hit up, look for say her Instagram page, she has links for the other platforms that she has, such as the Agricademy, where she has a homeschool curriculum over there. She also has courses on how to grow watermelons, on how to get started on your aquaponics system, just about everything under the sun. This is our brilliant sister here. She is my teacher because she is, everything that I want to do now in life. This is the go-to woman. So make sure y'all support her. She is just great. And to be here to share this information so we eliminate the fear and misinformation that circulates within our communities. And you actually have someone here, she has years in infection research investigation. She has a thorough history of science. Like that's one of our topics that when they took science out of the schools, and now we're subject to a bunch of misinformation, hearsay from people who don't know. So I welcome you to ask any questions you have concerning your fears, not only on COVID-19, but any infectious diseases or things like that, misinformation you may have, questions on farming. Lovely sister here, brilliant. Just ask away. Also, like, subscribe, and share. Follow her on her other platforms. Look at her videos, comment. She's very responsive. Just love her. So I'm going to go through
some of the questions.
Yes, let's go through a couple of them here. There was one, Jen Thomas. She has here. Have you heard of a salt stream to fight the Rona? Saw where this Black male respiratory therapist in Brooklyn, medical New York, contracted COVID-19 and took turmeric, garlic, and ginger. That kind of links into another question that we have that we're going to talk about, is those who are now like crash. I don't want to, put this term on there, so I don't want people to get mad at me, but like, I'm all of a sudden, because the Rona's here, I'm gonna go and get some supplements. I'm gonna get the sea moss right now, but I'm still going and doing all these unhealthy practices. So can you tell us like what scams right now are out there that's, and I'm not saying sea moss is a scam, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, what are these things that people are all of a sudden coming up with that they claim will cure you of the corona, to help our people not fall victim to these scams and these unnecessary treatments that won't do anything?
Right. So yeah, a lot of that has popped up. Just know that, number one, there's no scientific research that proves that any of this stuff is effective against this particular virus at this time. Like I said, we had SARS and we had MERS, and they didn't do a lot of, advanced research with that. Because when we had those two, they should have been developing a vaccine back then based off, the those outbreaks. SARS, they're naming this particular virus SARS 2. So they're saying it's very similar to the first SARS that was out in China back in 2000. Like I said, I can't remember the actual date. It was the early 2000s. So they should have been doing a lot of research on, these cleaning products, as well as, if there's some um, natural remedy and things like that. Like I told you, it's going to be, to this point, your immune system, um, and just how strong your immune system is. And if you have some underlying condition, you're you're at a gamble of like if you're going to be able to survive this or not. Now, if you don't have any underlying conditions, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in that part of that 99% that actually recovers. This guy that says he was infected with the COVID-19, was he really? Like, do we have evidence that he actually took a test and it came back confirmed? That's another thing that I'm seeing happening now on Facebook, is that all these people, they're sick or they died, and everybody instantly says they had COVID-19, and they've already told you there's a shortage of tests that they can be even ran. So are these people actually dying of COVID-19, or are these people even dying? So I know some people have died, but there's a lot of things like that are being, we all know how social media is. Like, people will latch on to something and they'll make up stories. They'll find old videos from 10 years ago and say this is what's happening over in this country now, and then you will find a picture and they'll alter the picture and things like that. So even when it comes to people saying they had COVID-19, because it's such a big topic right now, people instantly believe, oh yeah, he has COVID-19. Um, Also, people that are claiming to be, all these physicians and all this stuff, you have to look at their backgrounds. Like, people call me doctor. I have a master's. I don't I don't have a PhD, but I have worked in research since 2001. So, I mean, I should get an honorary doctorate at this point, but um, but like there are people that will claim to be things that they're not. They'll find a meme and they don't even research the meme to see if it's true or not. So I don't know about this doctor that did this salt steam. I know that there there's no research that says salt is effective against coronavirus, and in particular this coronavirus. So I would, be leery of trying those types of things. People, when they were talking about using that malarial drug, the government and people were going out and buying that the quinaquine or chloroquine. It was a fish tank uh um parasite drug that you use in your fish tanks to kill certain parasites. So that hydrochloroquine that they were talking about in the news, that they were using it to possibly treat people for COVID-19, they were just testing that out. They haven't said that, yes, this is going to be the treatment. We also must realize that is not an antiviral drug. That's an anti-parasite drug. Malaria is caused by a protozoan. Um, that's a multicellular organism. That is not a virus. So it's not an antiviral. They've also found that particular drug has caused other health issues in people. And so when people went out and started buying the fish tank stuff, one guy poisoned himself, killed himself, made his wife very sick. She was critical in the hospital. Then some people over in Africa, they did the same thing and killed themselves as well. So don't all the stuff that they're telling you on, you're seeing on social media, don't fall for that, cuz I don't want to see y'all out here dead trying to latch on to something that somebody said because they uncle worked for the da 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 office. I get so tired of those videos and those recordings too coming through Messenger. My cousin, but this is my friend's cousin that's a nurse in some department at the No, she's not. That ain't even a department at the CDC. But but because there's a lack of knowledge, people are easily, persuaded into latching on to these things and then spreading them around. And like I say, my stuff never goes viral, but this this stuff, like this stuff goes viral, and it's like, really, y'all really believe that? Like, come on now. The common sense did kick in. Like, okay, if the government, if they ain't got a solution, how Bob that was selling cars last week got a solution? Like, come on, y'all, come on, please. Like, but yeah, the lack of knowledge can be deadly. because I've seen people, they've been dying because they've been trying to use these home remedies. And like I said, the elderberries, don't eat raw elderberries. And I've seen all these, people that are calling themselves herbalists now and all these other things. And they're telling people to take these and mix these stuff together. And I'm like, that's a toxic plant. Don't tell them to do that. Don't tell them to do that. And so, me being the nerd that I am, even though I focused on like entomology and I love tracking diseases and studying diseases and stuff. I had to learn the human body. I had to learn animal bodies, because if we're giving them these things, we have to know how these things actually interact in the body. Some things may work fine with certain animals and not work well with other animals. Like you can't give a dog blueberries, so don't ever give your dog blueberries. They're toxic to dogs. They don't do anything to us. They don't do anything to cats, but it'll kill the dog if they get too many of them. So you have to know um you have to know what you're doing. Like you have to know the body of what you're trying to you know either suggest. I don't want to ever prescribe anything, especially since I don't know, because I have people all the time trying to come in my inbox and say, what medicine should I take, or I'm not doing that. I'm not, because I don't know anything about you. And the first thing that happens to you, you're gonna be running to me blaming me because I told you to take this. I was like, nah, no. These are some suggested things, and I'll send them articles to read and all that, and I'll let them decide if that's something that they want to do. But I'm not gonna say, yes, go get this and this, because everybody's different. That's the same thing when you go to the doctor. They're just practicing on you because everybody's different. Like what might work for you ain't gonna work for me, and what might work for me ain't gonna work for you. It could kill you or kill me. But this is what we're dealing with now. And we got a lot of this going on the internet of people, spreading misinformation, or some of it could be true, and then the other half is not true, and it's like trying to decipher through all that. And I used to try to argue with people, and try to, you know, I'm like, no, you know what? I'm gonna let y'all do that, and then hopefully we don't see you in emergency, um, because you went and did something that you shouldn't have. Um, but yeah, like there's a lot of misinformation going around about this and a lot of other things on the internet. And so I try to like make videos, or I'll try to make, posts and, counter that. I don't know how many times I've seen like insect videos going around and talking about this is something from space or what. I'm like, no, that lives here. It's been here probably longer than humans. So yeah, but you just have to choose your sources wisely. Um, if somebody's trying to market you things, that should be a first indicator that they're just about money and not necessarily about your well-being. We got enough of that going on with the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors and all that. We don't need to add to that, but that's a lot of that going on now. People are selling, they're selling these masks that they find from China. I think they're called the KN95 mask. And the government has rejected those masks because they said that they don't meet the standards that we're looking for. But I see people selling them online, telling everybody, "Oh, I got N95 mask." I'm like, wow. And so we're not helping each other. We got people, selling their homemade masks or their homemade hand sanitizers and all that. So just watch my videos, and you guys be the judge of what you want to do. But just know that there's no scientific data. uh Everything right now is just up in the air. It's presumptive. They're assuming this will work. They don't really know. They're researching this stuff as it's happening. This research should have been done, back when we had those other ones, but it wasn't. So now they're trying, they're being reactive when they should have been proactive a long time ago. um Coronaviruses, in the beginning, everybody kept sharing that video of the woman eating the bat. Yes, coronaviruses, they are transmitted by bats. I mean, but there's other animals that actually transmit them as well. Bats are not the only reservoirs for this virus. Um, Also, they've been eating they eat stuff like that all the time. And when you look at how the virus spread so quickly, you have to start thinking, I don't think this was somebody eating a bat in a restaurant. This had some, bio terrorism type spreading gone with it. Now they could have actually cultured that virus from a bat that they found out in the wild, went to a lab, and they can alter viruses in a lab. So don't think they can't do that. They can alter those surface proteins to make it where it can be highly infectious, or they can to other species. So usually the coronaviruses stay in the animals, and then what happens is once it gets repeat exposure to humans, that's when it actually mutates and is able to infect humans. But you can go in a lab and you can alter that. You can make that mutation take place a lot faster in a lab than you would out in nature. So we just need to be mindful of things like that. When it spread so quickly over there and then it came over here, like I still say it was here between October of last year or maybe even before. um the way it spread from Washington and New York, even if there were planes, like that was too quickly. It was almost like it was planted in those two locations. So it would spread inward from those two coasts. And so you just have to look at me being a disease investigator. That's what I would have to do. I would have to look at, people that were sick, their contacts, where they had been, how they had traveled, if they've been out of the country, what they had eaten, and things like that. And when it spread that fast, I'm like, I don't think this was, naturally occurring. And there's also been this debate about if it's airborne or not. And there's been 2 papers that have came out of China that said it is airborne, that it can live on dust particles for at least 2 hours. I wouldn't say live because it's not a living agent. It's just it can survive on dust particles in the air, aerosolized for 2 hours. And you know that would suggest to me that yes, it is airborne because people were getting it and they may not have had direct contact with a person. They may not have touched something, but if it's in the air and you're breathing it in, it also goes in through your eyes. They were finding that it actually penetrated the eyes and was able to cause infection. um, that airborne transmission is a huge possibility. It had that droplet transmission too, where it's in the mucus. Um, and again, I have another video that explains all that too, the different modes of transmission, because people think just because you wash your hands that you can't get sick. And when I used to interview people all the time, especially for respiratory diseases, they would say, "Well, I don't understand. My husband, he has it, but I don't understand why I got it because I wash my hands." I was like, "Ma'am, is he coughing in the house? Is he sneezing?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, he just put it in the air. You just breathed it in, or it went into your eye, or maybe after you washed your hands, it landed on your hand, and you didn't wash your hands again for a while, and you put your fingers in your mouth. So you know." Or it could have landed on the food that you were eating, the drink that you were drinking. So you people they don't realize that there's multiple modes of transmission other than, using your hands to get sick. It's lots of ways.
What question you just brought it up with our respiratory health. Now, as Black people, we proud. Oh, I got asthma, and then after years of smoking, we got emphysema, bronchitis, and now everybody is on the metal or the glass pipe,
Yeah.
vaping. Can you? And then no exercise to strengthen our lungs and strengthen our respiratory system and our cardiovascular. Can you tell us how important it is? What items should we cut off cold turkey? What do we need to do to ensure that our respiratory health gets better or
So
improves and gives us a fighting chance to live, and be one of the survivors if we are exposed or carrying a coronavirus?
so if you are smoking or vaping, whether it's marijuana, cigarettes, all of that, you need to probably stop that, especially around this time frame, um, because you are weakening your lungs. Your lungs, like I say, they have their second line of defenses. If a microorganism gets in there, it's going to produce mucus, and that mucus actually helps trap dust and debris and microorganisms, all types of things that might try to invade your lungs. If your lungs are not healthy, if they're already overburdened with smoke and the things that you're inhaling in those cigarettes and all that other stuff that you're doing, what's going to happen is it's not going to be able to fight off on the infection. Um, and so it's just going to linger there. And that's all that virus needs is that, be able to sit there on them and find the cells that it needs to invade and then that's how you get sick. Um, Also exercising. Our heart and our lungs are connected. So, if your heart's not healthy, uh, your lungs are not going to be healthy either. So exercise is very important. Everybody's sitting at home right now, and I see a lot of people saying they're bored and they ain't got nothing to do. Go outside and exercise. Run if you don't want to go outside, run in place, or do something to get your heart rate going and get your make those lungs start working. But yeah, smoking, that's a big no, and I mean that doesn't just affect you, it affects anybody else that's living in the house with you, even your pets. um Pets have developed all types of respiratory issues because of the owner smoking. Your children, you have to think about that. Also, things like dust mites. Um, what else? If your house or your apartment building has things like roaches and things, or even rodents, there's things that those things can affect your breathing in your lungs because they're producing all types of um dust, and their waste is in the air, and the dust mites, they can cause allergic reactions and things like that. Now if you have asthma, and I hate that every time you go to the doctor's office, that's what they want to diagnose you with. They don't ever want to figure out what is really wrong with you. They just want to tell you, oh, you have asthma, and they give you albuterol and they send you home. Because this was what happened with my son. A few years ago, he had these strange like breathing issues, and that was the first thing they tried to say, he had asthma. And I'm like, no, he doesn't have asthma. It's not even in his lungs. It's like more of in his throat and his nose area. And so, I had to take him to a whole bunch of different specialists, and they ended up diagnosing it as vocal cord dysfunction, where his vocal cords were not closing all the way, and they would make like this weird sound, like he was labored breathing. But if you took his oxygen level, it was at 100%. Um, but when you go to the doctor and they try to diagnose you with something and they didn't even run a test or anything, you need to demand tests. You need to say, no, I'm not taking albuterol. I'm not taking all these steroids. I want you to find out what's really wrong with me. Um, and that's a lot of times we just take their first diagnosis as, oh, this, I got this. And we take it, and, we start taking those steroids, um, and then we mess ourselves up. What's the one steroid they always prescribe? If it's not the albuterol, oh, I can't think of the name of it right now. But you know, prolonged use of steroids is not good for the body. A lot of people become heavyweight. Their weight, they gain a whole bunch of weight taking all these steroids and things. It messes with their endocrine system and all types of things. And so you should want to find out what's really wrong with you. Um, I know a lot of times during this time of year, they don't even test you for the flu. They just assume you have the flu. That's why I say a lot of these people now being diagnosed with COVID-19, or people are saying they have COVID-19, they might not even have COVID-19. They might have the flu or just a simple cold. Um, but if you don't do a test, you don't know what you really have. And testing is very important. Um, that's how we would confirm cases, is that we would actually have to test them. And if you didn't have a test to confirm it, we couldn't say, yes, you have this, you have that. We would actually had to have that test. A lot of times when we have diseases, the kid, if it was a child or an adult, they couldn't go back to school until they got 2 negative tests, depending on what the disease was. Um, but when it comes like these respiratory things, they don't want to do the testing. I don't know if you guys, I've shared the video before. I didn't share it on my YouTube, but I shared it on my Facebook and stuff about how the COVID-19 specimen is actually collected, because people didn't even know that they use the MP swab. So they take this long, it's long, about 12 inches or so, and they take it and stick it up your nose, and it goes all the way back to the back of your nose. That's your nasal pharyngeal area, and they let it sit there for about a minute or two. And then that's how they collect the specimen. So if anybody has not had that test, had that specimen collected, they ain't been tested for COVID-19. Um, but you got all these people saying, "Yo, yeah, I was tested." When? Because they telling you, like in New York now, you can't, if you go to the hospital, they're turning people away, saying, "Well, we don't have a test to test you. If you develop the the respiratory distress, then you come back. But other than that, they sending people home just to, convalesce at home and get better at home until, unless they develop worse symptoms. So, yeah, respiratory health. If you smoking, please try to stop. Anything uh that's gonna affect your lungs, just try to stop that for now. Uh, Stop it for the long run, especially cigarette smoking and things like that. It's just not good for you. I mean, you might not get COVID-19, but who wants emphysema? Who wants lung cancer? Or who wants to infect somebody else in the house with those types of things? I wouldn't want to do that. Um, you got to think about beyond you. You have to think about people around you. Um, this is not it's not even great for the environment, having all that smoke and stuff in the air and all that stuff, because that smoke settles, and then it's just in your house, and then that dust is in your house, and so you're still breathing it in, and it's still affecting your lungs. So you got to think about that. Also, you know certain cleaning products can be very stressful on your respiratory system. So don't be breathing in and huffing in, like the bleach. Don't overdo it either. Like, you can be clean, but we can be too clean sometimes to the point that we can make ourselves sick. If you're dealing with chemicals and it says you need to have, open air, you need to have open air. You need to have a fan blowing. Because what'll happen is you'll breathe those things in, and that could damage your lungs. And you don't want damaged lungs, because that's what they're finding, that the people that are, really getting sick and having to be put on ventilators and stuff, their lungs are producing a whole bunch of mucus to, encapsulate this virus that has invaded it. But if your body can't produce those, um, can't produce those antibodies and all those things that it needs, then you're not gonna get out of this very well. I mean, nobody wants to be put on a ventilator. Um, None of that. So please stop smoking if you can. Be careful with the chemicals. And do not mix bleach and ammonia. Do not do that. Um, yeah, you'll make mustard gas and you'll kill everybody in the house. And you don't want to do that. Um, Also with the alcohol, it can be very, if you're breathing it in, it can affect your lungs as well. And then drinking alcohol, not necessarily affect your lungs, but that can affect your overall health. You need all your body organs to be functioning together. Alcohol, we know, it can affect liver, kidneys, and all types of things. It also can affect your decision making. So try to lay off the alcohol, smoking, vaping, the weed, all of that. If you gotta have your marijuana, make some edibles or something. But
I just made a quick connection. I just made a connection. You just mentioned it. Oh my gosh. So one thing that's important is vitamin D. And you
yes,
stated that vitamin D is synthesized through our liver. But if you're drinking alcohol, you're killing your liver. So you're not getting the vitamin D. Therefore,
yep.
you're depressed. Therefore, you're not doing what your body's not doing and actually needs to do. I just made that connection. So, yes, thank you so much for being my sister nerd. We have some questions in the comments, and I wasn't sure that you were able to see them. So yeah, if you want to pick out some questions to answer in the comments, that I just want to say thank you to
Okay.
everyone who is here. I see our B1 family is here. My moderators, thank you so much. I'm really grateful. So just make sure that you head over to Urban Farm Sister here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook page. Stay in touch with her. If you are enjoying this conversation here, you go over to her channel, you can binge and have hours upon hours and days of information like this, like coming up, us nerds, this is just our talk, and we're just grown up nerds now, but
Yes.
resourceful people are sexy right now, okay? Resourceful folks are sexy. So go right ahead.
Well, I see Jim Thomas again. She was talking about the steam salt bath. So I
Hmm.
mean, things like a vaporizer in the house and things, especially if you're sick, that helps with, like, congestion and things like that.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say that that actually kills the virus. If the virus is in your body, at that point, it's up to your body to kill it off. They don't have there's no medical treatment at this point that you can take it, and it'll come in and it'll just wipe the virus out. There's
Hmm.
no antiviral anything at this point that says, like, oh yeah, we're going to use this and this is going to kill the virus.
Mm-hmm.
They are coming up. I talked about this. It's funny because the Dr. Fauci or whatever his name is, that's
Mm-hmm.
on Trump's task force team.
Mm-hmm.
The other day he started talking about herd immunity, and I just talked about that about 2 or 3
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying, if everybody in the world ends up with this, we'll have herd immunity, which means we won't need a vaccine because everybody
Right.
will be immune to it because they'll have the
Mm-hmm.
antibodies to it. So he brought that up the other day, and I was like, you know what? Who said that like 3 weeks ago?
You.
And but they're sort of what they're doing. They're trying to take plasma from people that were sick and they recovered, and take those antibodies and actually put them into sick people to see if the antibodies will start attacking the virus that are in a sick person. Um, so I mean, I would recommend that treatment. I would not recommend the actual vaccine. And that, we must remember the vaccine is not going to treat anything. What it's going to do is supposed to prevent this from happening again. But if everybody's sick with it, and I had antibodies, and then if I reproduce or something, those antibodies should be passed on to my child. So then, in actuality, it would probably take another 10 years before the population just isn't producing those same antibodies to where a vaccine may be needed. But if they can find that immunoglobulin test to be, treatment to be effective, a vaccine necessarily wouldn't even be needed. That's what they did. They claim they did with the Ebola. When those people got sick over here in the United States with Ebola, they took the antibodies from a person that recovered and put them in there and they treated them. So why can't we just do that with them? Like, it's the same thing. It, we're trying to do things that are unnecessary now. But that steam bath, like I said, it'll help with congestion and things. Like if you have a cold and like it keeps things moist in the sinuses and stuff. But I can't say that it's actually going to kill the virus. Let's see. Ed from Virginia question. So if your face mask protection doesn't repel pepper spray, it won't work against the virus. Correct. It won't. The virus will go right through there because it's actually smaller than those pepper spray droplets. So it will go right through there. Let's see here. What about the vitamin D pills? Yes, you can take vitamin D pills if you can't go outside in the sun. Yes, that's the next best thing, is to take the pills. But nothing is going to be better than the actual sun itself. But like I said, there are people that cannot go out in the sun for medical reasons. Then I know there's some black people that want to go out in the sun because they don't want to get dark. But you guys need to get over that because you're like depriving yourself of a vital medicine that's naturally occurring uh, by not wanting to go in the sun because you don't want to change your complexion. Um, but yes, if you can't go in the sun because of a medical condition, or you're taking medication that doesn't allow you to go in the sun, taking the vitamin D pills is the next best thing. They also have like these lights that you can put in your house that will help your body synthesize the vitamin D, that kind of mimic the sun, but they're not going to give off as much, like those rays that the sun would give off. They're kind of like, I wouldn't say they're UV ray light. I forget what they're actually called, but a lot of people use them in the winter time to help them overcome depression, um, because they can't be out in the sun. But yes, you can take the vitamin D pills. A lot of those are derived from mushrooms. So if you have a mushroom allergy, you might want to ask your doctor to prescribe the other ones. I think they derive some from plants. Um, but vitamin D in milk, it really doesn't it doesn't do anything, just goes to your digestive tract. um any suggestions on household humidity levels? I'm not sure the actual humidity levels. Um I will have to look that up. I can't think of the percentage right now. But if your skin is dry, your nose and sinuses feel dry, then it's probably too dry in your house. And I know a lot of people have their heaters running right now, um, because of wintertime. Even though we're in spring, there's still some places that are pretty cold. Um, and yeah, the heat can dry your sinuses and things. So if you're experiencing that, then yeah, you might want to get a humidifier. Um, like I said, I don't know the actual percentage that would need to be in that room or whatever or your house. I'm thinking like 20%, but don't quote me on that. I think most of us had the flu because I didn't hear anyone having the flu for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, they haven't talked about the flu since January. And flu season started actually in October. Um, this is also the same time that a lot of people were experiencing strange pneumonias here in the United States, but they were not diagnosing them as COVID-19 because according to them, they didn't know it existed. And then there was no test back then anyway. So a lot of those people were being either diagnosed without a test, saying they had the flu, or they had bronchitis, or they had the asthma, the normal upper respiratory problems, and they were just sent home. And some of them, end up having to go to the hospital. Some of them may have died back then. There was no real record of that showed that it could have been this coronavirus. I want to talk about another thing with the coronavirus because people, so they were getting Lysol cans and they saw coronavirus on the back of the Lysol can or on the bleach bottle and all that. There are hundreds of different types of coronaviruses. Those particular ones that they're talking about on there, those are the ones that actually cause the common cold every year. That is not the same coronavirus that caused COVID-19. It's kind of like, there's dogs, but then there's like chihuahuas, there's like bulldogs, there's like, Dobermans and all that. There's there's multiple different types of coronaviruses. There's some that infest, like I told you, bats, camels, pigs, all types of animals. And they can mutate and they can infect other animals, and then they can also infect humans. So and I call humans animals, okay, because we're animals. We carry out the same bodily processes that animals do and things like that. We catch the same diseases and things, as you all can see. But there are pathogens that can cross species, and that's coronaviruses are one. Influenza, the viruses that cause the flu, they originally start in animals. A lot of them start either in pigs or in poultry, and mostly chickens. And what happens is repeat contact between human and animal allows those pathogens to, mutate and cause infection. So, uh, you know, we could have had a lot of stuff going on during October, but nobody was, checking for coronavirus. Nobody was really checking for the flu. They already assuming flu was going to be there, and they would want people to go get the flu shot, which never works anyway. Um, so yeah, you didn't hear about the flu because coronavirus is like, so it's in the news.
Just want to jump in real quick and say thank you to Air from VA, our moderator, our good brother. He gave us a super chat. Thank you for answering my questions. I don't let the humidity get below 40% in the house. So thank you so much. And yes, the questions are great. So just want to remind you again to go ahead and subscribe UrbanFarmSista here on YouTube, Instagram, Agricademy, also on Instagram as well. Like her pages on Facebook. So yes, you get so much more. This is a brilliant sister, great sister. So thank you so much.
So John Moore also asked, why do viruses come every election? Viruses are out there all the time. But these particular things that probably happen during election years, or when something big is going to happen, they're probably placed there. But viruses, they exist out in nature. I mean, they're passed along through all types of organisms. I mean, even bacteria can get viruses. So viruses exist out in nature. Um, but when things show up during, vital election years and stuff, you have to start thinking that there was some human component to that. Um, and I don't want to get into the whole, bioterrorism talk and all that, because then that starts some arguments and stuff. But you know, just think that some things can be intentional. And all these things aren't naturally occurring. Someone could have been involved with, planning these things in certain countries. We had a lot of stuff going on before the election. You have to think about, we had the tariff wars and all the other stuff going on with, China and Iran, and uh, at the January we're about to go to war. Uh, and now, those two countries got hit really bad with the virus, and then it came over here. But I'm still thinking it was over here way before they ever said it was over here. Um, there's also some things with, the stock market and all that. So I mean, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of times things are put in place to switch things around or to take focus off something else. So you have to always think that it had to have some uh human component going on. Can kratom help what? Can it help fight the virus? I don't know. There's no data that says that it can fight the virus or not. um so, like I say, I'm going to repeat it again. There's no drug, there's no vaccine, and there's really no cleaning agent that has been, 100% approved that is effective against this virus. Everything is presumptive. When you go to the websites and you look up all the products that they suggest you use, they say in the top of there, at the top paragraph, we presume that this will work because it has worked on other viruses, but we're really not sure. And they don't word it that way, but they try to use all this big language, but that's pretty much what it's saying. You are on your own. You can use this, but don't put too much faith in it.
Yes, just want to say thank you to Super User for the $2 super chat. Greatly appreciate you, and also the great question. So here's the fun part. We're gonna go ahead and start winding down. Like I said, this does not have to end. Go ahead and subscribe to Urban Farm Sister
Yes.
on YouTube. You get so much of this. You can just indulge to your heart's delight. Okay. So the big question, as we conclude, we like to have solutions, and with us who are, we have our right minds. We're not going to rely on an invisible thing to come and save us, or,
Yes.
put our faith in things that don't work. What are some logical, rational, long-term solutions to, surviving not only the COVID-19, but also self-sustainment, also overall health and moving forward, and also what do you have that will help us as well?
Um, well, washing hands is very important. Also, bathing. I found that
Mhm.
there were some studies over in China that
Wash
people
your
only exactly, over in China, they were only bathing like once a week. You have to remember, like I talked about the body. This is your skin is your first line of defense. Your hair, all of this is getting attacked all day long. All types of microorganisms are living on the surface of your skin and your hair, in your mouth and things like that. So hygiene is number one thing. Taking regular baths. If you don't want to take one every day, can you take one every other day? Washing your hair more frequently, especially during this time. Especially if you're going out to the stores and things. Um, just go with the notion that the virus is everywhere. I know, I know they shut down a lot of things because they say they weren't essential, and people can't have parties and all this stuff, and you can't have more than 10 people uh at an event. If you do have something, or if you're going out, don't be in crowds. But they're giving the people the idea that the grocery store is immune to, you know, the COVID-19, or, the restaurants that are, delivering your food or preparing your food, they're resistant to, and they're not. Um, I would suggest, if you can cook your own meals, because they have found that viruses can be destroyed by heat, but cooking your own meals, you know what it's been exposed to. Going to the fast food restaurants, you don't know if Joe Schmo got COVID-19, or he's a carrier, or somebody in his house has it. They could have coughed on him, and he got on his sweater that he's wearing while he's preparing your meal. your clothing and things like that, those are called fomites. So fomites are things that can actually hold viruses or microorganisms. So he could be preparing your food, and he could brush his shoulder or something, and the virus could be there and it land on your food, and he's already cooked it. So it could be on the container. You take the container out. You've washed your hands. You take the container out, you pick up the virus and you're eating, and you might, do one of these numbers or something, and now you infected yourself. So if you can cook your own food at home, that's probably going to be your best bet to cutting down on your exposure. When you're going to the grocery store, don't wear those gloves. Don't do that. You're not doing anything different than what you would do if you were just using your regular hands. Um, just be mindful of when you're picking up things. Try not to touch your face a lot. Um, if you're going to wear a mask, the people that really need to wear a mask are the ones that are symptomatic. And if you're symptomatic, you shouldn't be out anyway. You should be at home isolating. That's what this is all about. The sick people need to stay home and isolate until they're out of the incubation period. Um, but if you're going to wear a mask, um, make sure it's covering your nose. Make sure it's a approved mask. Things like paper towels and stuff are not going to be effective at filtering out the virus. If you are, not sick, if you're asymptomatic, just be mindful of when you're touching things that you could even have the virus yourself. And so just make sure that you're, just being mindful. We should have been this way to begin with. We should have always been this way. I mean, there's microorganisms, like I said in the beginning, that are out here all the time that can wipe us out at any point in time. So we have to just, go back to realizing our bodies are equipped to fight things off. Um, Also realizing that everything on the internet is not true. Just because it's on the internet or on social media on a meme, that is not true. And washing your hands, that's going to be the best bet. You don't even have to use antibacterial soap. If you just have soap, even the whole act of just washing your hands, you're washing off some of those microorganisms. But using hand sanitizer as a replacement to wash your hands, that's a no go. Don't do that. Also, if you're sterilizing or cleaning something, knowing that you're gonna have to leave, like if you're cleaning something with a bleach solution or Lysol or something, you need to look at the contact time. That is how long that solution has to stay on that surface before it'll be effective. If you just spray it on and then you just quickly wipe it up, you just defeated your whole purpose. You didn't sterilize anything, or you didn't clean anything. Sanitize, disinfect. Sterilizing would take heat and all that, and we can't do that to our houses. That's what they usually do when you're like going to get a surgery and they sterilize the instruments. But washing hands, taking baths, not wearing the gloves to the store, not being out if you don't have to be, um, not being in crowds, trying to cook your own food, um, and just you know going outside in the sun. Just basic things that we should have been doing in the first place. Avoiding sick people. If you still have to go to work and there's people coughing and things, try to avoid them. Um, and just know that COVID-19 is not the only disease out here. I mean, there's lots of stuff.
Shout out to K Flash 3782 for the super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, K Flash.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for being here. I so
you're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Like, I just found a family member. So shout out again to Brother Chandler. So if you can you tell us about your platforms, any projects you have going on right now, what you're doing locally, and where everybody can find you at for more of this?
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook and Twitter under UrbanFarmSista, and that's SISTA. Um, I also have websites. I have Agricademy Inc. .org. That is my nonprofit that I started, where I actually teach. I do research with that, but I also teach youth about the agriculture industry beyond just farming. People just think when you say agriculture that you're just a farmer. But in reality, there are so many different careers and opportunities that, you know, people of color, especially Black people, don't even know about that are under
Mhm.
that field. And so I teach children. When I could go to schools, I would go to schools and I would, you know, teach them about, you know, veterinary medicine or
Mhm.
entomology or animal sciences or food science. And, you know, I would bring in activities and they have these hands-on activities and things like that. Um, and then with the research, you know, I do entomological research. I told you I'm a beekeeper. I got funded last year for a project where I'm testing out. um, I'm testing a bacteria to use as a organic um, pesticide within the hive against these particular insect pests that actually invade the hives. They can
Mhm.
cause problems with beekeeping. So it's hive beetles and then it's these wax moths. Um,
Mhm.
but there's a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis that is used in agriculture on plants and things that prevent these caterpillars and these beetles from feeding on these plants. Well, the same thing can be applied to in the hive. So I'm testing that out to see how effective that would be. Also with the Agricademy, me and Chandler, we're actually starting a lab where we're gonna our first crop that we're gonna actually micro propagate and stuff, which that's a
Mhm.
whole area that I had to just talk to you about that on the other thing. But we're trying to get into the hemp,
Mhm.
cultivating hemp, but
Mhm.
also micro propagating a lot of different plants and, you know, making, you know, superior genetics as well as, you know,
Mhm.
disease free plants. Um,
Wow.
this is a big issue in agriculture. This is
Mhm.
why we have to use pesticides. This is why we have to
Mhm.
use chemicals and things because of, you know,
Dangerous.
diseases and things that
Mhm.
plants get, as well as pests and things that these plants can get. And so, you know, with the entomology half of that, you know, I can address the insect issue,
Mhm.
but then with the micropropagation, we can actually breed out and
Yes.
create new lines of plants that are
Mhm.
resistant to certain viruses and bacterias and stuff. So, um, you know, I am working on that with Agricademy, and then with Kiwi Produce, that's my
Yes.
actual uh urban farm. So I
Mhm.
actually farm stuff here in Cincinnati on that empty lot. And you know, I teach classes through that and I have a website where you can go and you can actually take online classes. And that's Kiwi Produce Farm, kiwiproduce.farm/school. And that's where I have classes. I actually did a whole presentation about coronavirus and I did a presentation about influenza that you can purchase on there. But then I have classes like beekeeping, how to grow seeded watermelons because I know people.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah, we won't talk about that, but you know, there's nothing wrong with the seedless ones, but people want those seeds, and so
Yes,
you
we
know,
do.
I explain how the seedless ones were made in there, but I
Mhm.
also explain how you can actually cultivate those on your own. You can grow your own
Mhm.
watermelons. You don't have to wait for the grocery store
Right.
um, to
Mhm.
produce those for you. Then I have a hemp class coming up. It's actually next Saturday, it's starting the first one.
Mhm.
We're talking about hemp and how you can get into the hemp industry. Every state has all these different rules and regulations that are allowing it to be cultivated. And so we're just trying to help people navigate through that, especially Black people. Um, because my whole thing for me doing this is for us because you know we are so excluded from everything, you know, so I just want to teach y'all all that I know so that y'all can be included in the conversations now, you know. um but like hemp, I mean that could really change the Black community if we got into hemp and not necessarily get into actual marijuana. They're all cannabis plants, but the hemp has so many other applications that we could actually get into, that we don't know about. We just think we could. All we think is that with hemp is that for CBD and for smoking the flowers, but there's thousands of different uses for that plant. And so, you know, with that webinar, going to try to teach people about that. Um, with that, what else do I do? I do so much stuff. Um, like I said, I teach the hydroponics. I have online hydroponics class. I do consulting. So if anybody ever wants to set up like a garden or things, I do consultations. There's a fee. But you can consult with me and I've done it through Skype. I've, here in Cincinnati, I can come to your location, things like that. So I just do all things agriculture, all things science, this is what I do. I just love it. And then, with this COVID-19, I got to tap back into my, public health and disease interests. So yeah, that's just what I do.
Thank you. And shout out to who we have here. Solo Dolo, you're now a moderator. So thank you so much for the super chat and B1. You just got an amazing compliment here. Sister Nadia Ruffin over here, like the late great George Washington Carver.
Yes.
There we go. That is
Yes.
a heck of a compliment.
Yes, that's like my, that's like my role model. I've read so much stuff about him, and I put so much respect on his name because people try to reduce him down to peanuts and peanut butter, and this man never even made peanut butter, but he saved the South from famine. Teaching them when he left, I believe it was Iowa. He was actually like almost a professor there at this college that he was attended, and they were letting him teach and things. And he came down. Booker T. Washington asked him to come to Tuskegee, and he saved the South's agriculture. If he had not introduced crop rotation, they had wiped out all the nutrients in the soil trying to grow that cotton over and over and over again. And him coming down there and teaching them crop rotation and how to use certain plants to fix nitrogen, like soybeans and peanuts, back into the soil, we wouldn't have what we have today. And so, I always looked up to him. I was like, man, I wish he was still here. Like, and he worked with Ford, and the Ford plants, they were designed by what George Washington Carver had taught Ford. Henry Ford, the guy that created the Ford vehicle, he was like best friends with George Washington Carver, and they were making plastics out of plants and things like that. So for the car parts, and so yes, I always look up to George Washington Carver, as well as all the other Black scientists that were out there and inventors. I used to do that every year where I would try to point out our greatness to the world during Black History Month. But then I was like, you know what? I know how great we are, and I done did this. I'm not gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna get y'all the list and y'all research these people. I'm tired of doing this. But it's like so many people. Like I'm gonna talk about Benjamin Banneker on Monday when I talk about the cicadas. Because everybody knows him for math and stuff, but they don't know that he used to actually track cicadas. And he's the one that did that 17 year. He found out that they actually came out every 17 years and things like that. So we as Black people have been in science for so long. It's just sad that we're not in it now, and we're only not in it now because we've been pushed out of it. And I'm trying to get us pushed back into it and interested in it. And so, that's why I use social media. I know some of the stuff might be boring to somebody out there if you're interested.
Brother, your journey, I've not been ignoring you. He asked, how can he connect with you for an interview?
Oh, you can send me an email, UrbanFarmSista@gmail.com.
So yes, I just want to say thank you so much, and also you want to update them with your next video schedule and your topics as well, and our collaboration over at UrbanFarmSista.
Yeah. So tomorrow, Taisha will be on my YouTube channel, and she's gonna be actually talking about firearms and self-defense. So what I do on my channel is that I've been doing what are called COVID-19 isolation solutions. So I had a guy come on and talk about, how to set up, how to be like, how to survive this. Like, what are the things that we need to be stockpiling and things like that. He's a disaster preparedness expert. So he was educating people on how to, set up their home, how to store water, how to go about obtaining like gas mask and things like that, how to close off your windows and things to keep microorganisms out. Then I had a lady come on and she talked about homeschooling, because all of us now have been pushed into being homeschoolers now, whether we want to or not. All the schools are closed, and a lot of them are closed until next August now. So now the parents are going to have to be the teachers if your children were in school. And so she came on there. She's a homeschooling parent, and she came on there and explained how to homeschool, how to do things like that. Then I had another lady come on and she talks about you know women that are going to have to give birth during this time, and the things that may come along, or the options that you have after after you know, being in isolation. Women now, if they go to the hospital, they can't even have their husband or spouse or whoever go in the room with them. They're having to give birth by themselves. And so she was just explaining, getting a doula, or, what you need to tell your doctor if you can't have anybody in there, your wishes and things like that. So she came and explained those things.
Yes.
And then, so now Taisha's going to come and talk about, how to protect yourself. Here in Cincinnati, the police said they ain't coming.
No.
They ain't coming.
Now what is a joke? They ain't coming in the first place.
Exactly. But they really ain't coming now. They even told you. They told us on social media, we're not coming. Unless there's an injury, they ain't coming. So what do you need to do? We need to know what we need to do to protect ourselves, and what are some self-defense things that we need to know. If we have firearms, what are we supposed to do with them in the household? How to keep people safe with firearms in the household and stuff. So she's gonna come and talk to us about that tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I'm gonna talk about setting up victory gardens and what those are. Are they also called war gardens? They actually used these back in World War I and World War II, where citizens would actually use their lots as gardens, and they were able to make up for the loss of food that was not being produced by the farmers during those war times. Then on Monday, I have a class for children where I'm teaching them about chickens, and anybody can take the class. It's going to be live on YouTube, but if you want to buy the actual curriculum, you can buy the whole thing. But I'm going to have my son on there, and we're going to be talking about our chickens, and I'm going to let you guys see the chickens, but I'm going to give a lesson about where chickens came from, and how you can actually start keeping chickens, because that's something that can be part of your victory garden. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to talk about cicadas, because if you live in Virginia, West Virginia, or North Carolina, the cicadas are coming, and they probably going to be there real soon, like probably at the end of this month, if not in the middle of it, because I know the temperature over there, once ground temperatures reach at least 65 degrees, they're going to start emerging. And so I'm going to talk about them, because I know cicadas, they invoke fear in people, and they shouldn't, because they're harmless. So we're going to talk about them. And then just know, in 2021, they're going to be on the whole East Coast, all the way over from Ohio, all the way over. So we're going to get the huge invasion next year. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about eggs. So Monday is chickens, and then Wednesday is eggs. Talking about the structures of eggs, and chicken reproduction and all that stuff. So I got a lot of stuff going on. And then on Saturday of next week, I have the hemp webinar. So yeah.
Again, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here talking with you. Like this is just grand. Like you just don't know. But we covered a lot tonight. I just want to say thank you to everybody that came through, supported, shared, left positive feedback, who are now new subscribers at UrbanFarmSista.
Thank you for subscribing. I keep seeing them pop up on my screen here.
So thank you so much, everybody who contributed with the super chat, the moderators, my son, he's a new moderator. So, hey, come here, say hi to everybody. Come here. Yes, you can say hi. Say hi.
Hey.
Here we go. Do I say again? It's so good to have you here, a brilliant sister. That's one thing. That's why I do what I do, because I couldn't find anyone who looked like me, talk like me, to influence our people and be an asset and a benefit to our community. So I just want to say thank you for being who you are and sharing your gifts with all of us and just having a great heart. So yes, this is not a one and only. There will be more collaborations with us. So if you have any more questions in regards to COVID-19, farming, agriculture, anything like that, you have her contact information. Reach out, take full advantage of her courses. Just binge on the back information. Like this is necessary, and what you're doing is helping us become, self-sufficient. We can rely on ourselves. We don't have to rush to the grocery store, but we have our own system, our own economy, and this is just great. We can
Exactly.
take care of ourselves, take care of our bodies, take care of our loved ones, and pretty much getting back to the traditional woman. So that's another topic that I got to talk to you about, is us getting
Yes.
back to a traditional woman. And you also are reading one of my favorite books. So there's so much
Yes.
more to come from us. And I just want to say thank you. So any last words that you have?
Oh no, we were talking about off camera,
Mhm.
a book called Medical Apartheid. So I started reading, I haven't finished it, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna finish it, try to finish it probably not this week coming up, but next week after. Um, but that might be a book you guys want to look into, the
Mhm.
Medical Apartheid, because it explains, it's a hard read because it's
Mhm.
talking about, all the times that, microorganisms and bioterrorism was used against black people. Um, and so, even medical procedures and stuff, we were used
Mhm.
experimentation. And so you guys might want to read that, because that probably is what's applying right now to, this COVID-19. And so we can all read that. Maybe we can just talk about it later on when we all read it. But
Shout
no,
out to the Libra goddess who said she has the book. So shout out to you.
yes.
Yes.
And yeah, it's on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. So I know libraries here are closed, but you can actually buy it and read it online as well. But it's a like I said, it's not entertaining. It's gonna make you real mad. But it's something that I think we all need to read and get into. Um, it said my cousin is into farming. I'm definitely sharing your channel. All right, thank you. Yes, I'm really excited about talking about the diseases, but if y'all have insect questions, identifying stuff and all that, that's my love. My first love right there is the insects. So um I cover all bugs. The microscopic ones are, the ones that, are on your plants or in your house or whatever. Um but yeah, I thank you for letting me come on here and share all this information, and just being on your channel and connecting with a Cincinnati person. It's just so awesome. And, I'm trying to make my way back down to Georgia one day.
Come on. Like I said, I'll drive the truck. Come on. I'm
Right.
ready. Well, thank you so much. I want to wish you a great night. And yes, I will see you tomorrow. So I will see everybody. You support us over here. Head over to Urban Farm Sister on YouTube and share
Yes.
this across social media. Okay.
Yes. Yes. All
Yeah.
right.
Have a great night. And thank you.
You're welcome.